Hello and welcome to The Gripe TV. I am your host, JP Forte. You know, I've been thinking about some news. It's kind of old news. It goes back a few months. And it kind of is making me see just how bad of political double standards we have in this country. Now, for those of you, all of you probably remember the standoff with Cliven Bundy and all those armed wacko nut jobs out there in Nevada who basically were threatening law enforcement with semi-automatic rifles and sniper rifles and all kinds of firearms, and basically were preventing the feds from being able to seize this rancher's cattle and his property. And the reason why they were going to be seizing this rancher's property and his cattle is because the spoiled asshole did not want to pay his bills. He did not want to pay the grazing fees to the government. He basically got away with not having to pay for like 20 years. He avoided paying his taxes and his bills for 20 years, basically, which if any one of us had done something like that, where we refused to pay our bills or our taxes, do you think we'd be able to get away with it for 20 years? No, we wouldn't. We'd be basically out on the street within a couple of months. But this guy gets away with avoiding paying his bills and his taxes for 20 years, and finally they were like going to move in and seize all of his assets. So what does he do? He gets a bunch of crazed gunmen together, you know, the militia types, you know, that they consider themselves rootin' tootin' real Americans and screw everybody else in the country, you know. They basically want to have the entitlement over everybody else. And they all stand off armed with guns and rifles, even using women and children as shields, threatening to harm law enforcement, threatening to harm government officials, threatening to harm the feds that were going to be coming in and seizing the property. And what really irritates me and pisses me off about this whole situation is the government let him get away with it. Not one of these assholes has been brought up on any kind of charges against the country or against the government. They got away with it. And guess what? Some of these nut jobs actually went and did some serious harm and have actually killed a couple people shortly afterwards. You know, on different occasions in different areas after the whole incident. These people are terrorists. They are enemy combatants to the country, and yet they got away with it. And you know something? It got me to thinking, because I work in wolf rescue and wolf advocacy. You know, I work in the animal welfare world. And I started thinking, what would happen if a bunch of wolf lovers got together and formed a militia and did a big old standoff with weapons and were threatening people and everything else? I guarantee that the government would not hesitate to have us freaking bombed or dropped back or shot up and then the survivors apprehended and basically locked up until doomsday. But the people in the Cliven Bundy standoff, because they're rootin' tootin' hard-working real Americans, they get away with it. Once again, you can see the double standards in this country. The political double standards. The people in the whole Cliven Bundy incident basically should have been brought up on serious charges, and the government should have come in and used some kind of force. And the government should not have allowed these assholes to get away with it. Basically, what this government has done has emboldened these people to be able to have the feeling of power that in any case where they don't get their way, all they got to do is pull a gun out on somebody. And a few of them have already done that, and a few of them have already killed a couple people. What kind of idiots do we have running this government? And how much longer are these assholes in the Cliven Bundy standoff going to get away with that little act that they pulled? Stop with the goddamn double standards. Bring these people to justice and punish them.